I appreciated that. I'd like to meet that guy. He sounds fascinating. I want to congratulate you all for coming today and investing a little bit of your time in sharpening your saw. Sometimes we spend so much time cutting wood that we could be more effective if we just sharpened the saw. Indeed, I do want to talk about connections. Usually when we say that we're well connected, it's kind of from a political standpoint or from a business standpoint, and it certainly does make a difference if you know how to pick up the phone and call someone through networking in order to get an answer to your question, and that's important. That's part of the reason that you're here today. Another thing that we've learned, goodness, Rod's presentation, I don't even own a mine, and I'm going to buy one of those systems. I'm so cockeyed impressed with the information connections that it gives me. If you doubt the value of information connections, when was the last time you looked at your smartphone and checked your email? Aha, it wasn't just a short time ago. So you can appreciate the value of connections. You've come looking for some solutions based on that. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen so many idle mining-related people since the last time the bottom fell out of the iron ore prices around here. So I congratulate you for taking the time. But there's a caution in looking for high-technology solutions. As important as those are, and as valuable as they are, let me give you an example of that caution.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something?
How many times do we find ourselves like these two folks in an apparently ridiculous situation? All they had to do was walk. All they had to do was walk up the stairway. But we're looking around for someone else to help us with some sort of, as the last presenter said, silver bullet that's going to go solve all of our problems. But in many cases, it has to do with much more simple things much closer to home. In our world, things can get out of hand in a real hurry. And imagine finding yourself having to write the report about that. So the connections I want to talk to you about are bolted joint connections. Oh, well, why didn't you say so? What an exciting, stimulating topic. I would have come earlier this morning if I'd known you were going to talk about that. Bolted joints, wow. Why should you care about bolted joints? If you're associated with the mining business, one of the reasons is, for goodness sakes, they're everywhere. Just walk through a mine or walk through a plant or walk through a power plant or an oil refinery or for goodness sakes, a wind farm, as we just saw. They're in mechanical connections, they're in pressure vessels, they're under the sea, they're on top of the sea. For goodness sakes, every time the space shuttle flies, its booster rockets were bolted together, thankfully with my wrench, but that's a separate story. So they are everywhere, so we need to know something about what's going on with them. In the mining business, there are many methods. There are open pit, strip mining, room and pillar, dredging, underground drill and blast, longwall, goodness sakes, liquefaction, even automated TBMs. All of them involve equipment that is bolted together with a simple, humble little bolt. I'm a simple guy. But it's always impressed me that for the last 200 years, a bolt has been essentially the same piece of equipment. Now, we can put a man on the moon. Why is it that we haven't figured out a better way of putting things together? So anything that can last that long deserves our attention. In the mining business, it doesn't make any difference what commodity or product we're looking for. Goodness sakes, even if the product is a hole, if that's what we're drilling on, just to produce a hole. All of these processes, whether it's to explore for an ore body or something, we have to uncover it, we then have to extract it, we have to transport it, we have to crush, grind, or sort it in some way, shape, or form. We have secondary processes where we have to concentrate or react it, and then we ultimately have to smelt it, refine it, or ship it. Every one of those processes is immediately dependent on equipment functioning in its appointed way. So there are many machines that need bolting. If we're in exploration, it may be the drills. If we're in overburden removal, it may be drag lines, loaders, winches on shafts. Extraction, again, shovels, haul trucks, continuous miners, longwall shears. Transportation, slurry pipelines, trucks. Look at the bolts. Look at the bolted connections. Cone crushers, sag mills, screens, whatever else it may be. Even in leaching, secondary processing. I don't mean to bore you here. I'm just trying to impress you that if you are in the mining business, you need to pay attention to the way these things are connected, because your success depends on how well connected you are. A pun intended, as a matter of fact. I've been doing this for a while, too long, but I've only been able to find out 3 kinds of industrial bolting. It either has to do with pressure vessels and piping, such as autoclaves and slurry pipelines or whatever else it may be, where we're trying to contain some sort of gas or liquid under pressure. A second kind of bolting is mechanical joints, such as on our trucks or on our loaders or on 100 different kinds of mechanical equipment. And third, structural joints, where we're actually building bridges, structures, towers, whatever else they may be. And the interesting thing is that in the mining business, like few other businesses, you find all 3 of these kinds of bolting challenges. Another reason why we need to pay attention to bolting is that bolting is always in the critical maintenance path. What do I mean by that? If I want to repair or overhaul something on this cone crusher, what do I have to do before I can fix it? I have to take it apart. And after I get it fixed or the part replaced, what do I have to do again? I have to put it back together. Now the boss is just going apoplectic, trying to get me to hurry up to get this thing apart or to get it back together. Why? Because what is that cone crusher worth on an hourly basis when it stops the production in the mine? So if I can do a better job in these bolting functions of taking something apart and putting it back together, that falls directly to the bottom line. And if I don't save it, I can't run the equipment faster to recoup it. So it's a do it or lose it kind of proposition. So I'm trying to impress you that this may seem a little pedantic, it may seem a little simple, but it strikes at the heart of our profitability. Also, the cost of a bolting problem, when things go wrong, it's kind of like an iceberg. We can see lost products, something leaking, something loose, something not working properly. What we don't often see are the safety problems or concerns with something escaping, even to slips and falls of something leaking. The wasted labor and the wasted materials that went into doing it wrong the first time. Why is it we always have time to do something twice, we don't have time to do it properly in the first place? The lost production, the shutdown cost, the associated shutdown cost, because this key piece of equipment has shut down 5 other processes that feed into it. The environmental costs, the company image and impact. How many of us like to see our name in the paper for leaking something into the local creek? And even fines and compensations from our friends in the government. So, a number of invisible costs that have to do with bolting problems. One of the other reasons that we ought to pay attention is because we can. Why does a dog scratch behind his ear? Because he can. We can do better. The solutions are available for us to do this job better and more consistently and to gain all of these things without a great deal of extra cost, without a great deal of extra investments. There are 7 guys on the end of that cheater pipe tightening up that particular flange. But they're Canadians. That's a whole other story. Okay. Now, we're in the bolting tool business. We've been in the bolting tool business for over 40 years. We've seen a few nuts in our time, and there's a double entendre there. But at any rate, bolting tools have become much more sophisticated, much smaller, much lighter. The tool to tighten the final drive on the largest drag line in the world weighs 2 kilos and will fit in my hand. So there have been many advances in tools. They impact safety and quality and schedule. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But there's no lack of new technology in terms of accurately applying the appropriate load in a bolt in order to hold a tower crane up or to seal a pressure process or keep a wheel on a giant truck and keep it operating as it's supposed to do. There are new air tool options, ones that allow us to run a nut down, for example, 100 nuts down, and then simply to shift the tool over and go into a precision torquing mode to be able to give exactly the result that we need.
By the way, the wrench will operate hands-free,
yeah. Turn
even
the
upside down.
volume down on that one, I forgot. But that woke the guys up. I've been watching the guys on the back row, by the way. This one allows us to work hands-free, even upside down. I don't even have to be in the same county, okay? As I said, I was watching the guys over in this section back here. I noticed a little while ago that I was particularly effective because they had their eyes closed thinking about what I was saying. And every once in a while, a couple of them would agree with me. So I know I'm becoming particularly effective. Did you ever think, though, why is it that we certify welders? If you own a pipeline and you want me to weld, before you allow me to put a stick on your pipe, what do you want to see from me? You want to see my welder certificate. But 6 inches away from this welded joint is a very complex bolted joint. And where's my bolter's certificate? And the answer is that except for isolated companies who have some training procedure, there is no broad industry-wide training standard. Well, folks, that's changing. And I want to talk to you just a little bit about that. It's not enough to get it tight. You have to get it right. So there are new standards and new courses. One of them involves, and as was said, I sit on a committee to develop standards. We decided a long time ago that it was better to get involved in setting standards for an industry than it was to stand outside throwing pebbles at the window after the standards were set. And so this new standard for the American Society of Mechanical Engineers has for the very first time, has now set up a procedure and a curriculum for certified bolting specialists, just like certified welders. And it's a portable certification that they will be able to take with them. And oh, by the way, if you happen to be running a mine and much of your labor is coming in from a contractor and you don't even know them, they may not even be your employees, it gives you an effective way of evaluating the quality of the people coming in. New courses. What did I just do with that thing? Okay. In the United States, we have a famous little organization called OSHA, which is our Occupational Safety and Health Administration. You have one here in Australia called Occupational Safety and Health, OS&E. Or excuse me, OH&S, excuse me, I'll get my acronyms right. This course, for example, which is compatible with the standard, breaks into 3 tracks. So if I'm dealing with people in my autoclaves who need to know about pressure vessel bolting, then I can give them the pressure vessel course. If I'm dealing with people in the truck shop, then they don't need to know about gaskets because they're not putting gaskets in between wheels. And so we have a specialized track that fits this same requirement for mechanical bolting. And if I've got a structural crew that's erecting either temporary or final towers or whatever else may be, then I can specialize in that. So those things are existing now real time. We have a meeting next week with the Australian counterpart to talk about implementing that program here in Australia. So why would a tool manufacturer be telling you to train people? Well, we can't sell our technology to people who believe in slugging wrenches and flogging wrenches and cheater pipes. So we are committed to the fact that the door to productivity opens with a key, and that key is training. Training in the workplace improves both the job and the people. Think about it. Quality, efficiency, safety, and worker satisfaction all improve. There's a story, and I'll be brief and get off here. A story about two guys who were laying bricks. And a man walks by and he says to one, "What are you doing?" Guy looks around and says, "Can't you see I'm laying bricks?" And he asks the second guy, "And what are you doing?" He says, "I'm building a cathedral." Now the problem, most of the time, is that we treat our people like bricklayers instead of cathedral builders. Now I'm not suggesting that we want Joe Schmuckatelli on third shift to be making broad decisions about our operations, but he ought to know enough to be safe. He ought to know enough to recognize a problem when it does not fit the pattern that he's been taught, and he also ought to be able to be the last link in the quality chain, because all of the planning that comes down to him doing one little job right, if he doesn't do it right, then all of that planning has gone to waste. So, education benefits everything it touches. How can you afford new tools and training? Well, 3 words: safety. What's the cost of a lost time accident or a hazardous materials spill nowadays? Quality. One of the definitions I use of quality is, how do I extend the time between planned outages for a piece of equipment for maintenance? If I can extend that thing from every 3 weeks to every 3 months, boss, is that worth some money to you? And the third thing is schedule. Once I get into a maintenance event, how quickly can I get in and get back out? And that depends on how skilled my people are. If I give my laptop to a monkey, I'm still not going to get the results. It's not just a matter of tooling. It's not just a matter of equipment. It's a matter of recognizing the value of our people and training them to do it properly. You can't afford not to. So, success in the mining business really does depend on being well connected. But, as a matter of fact, the most cost-effective and valuable connection that you'll probably have is with your own people in bringing them out of the bricklayer stage and into the cathedral building stage. If you have some questions, we have a booth. We have these materials. It's not pie in the sky. It's something that's being done in many places. And we'd like to be involved with you in whatever way we can. So thank you very much. Any questions or comments?